What is the kind of Sarah Crowe style? What is the stamp that you're trying to apply?
I think to be super respectful to the land and the vineyard, we need to not suffocate it by being too prominent as a winemaker. I do feel like my impression on these wines is actually to really try and be in the shadows. So when you're looking at the wines, you don't really see the hand of winemaking. Making great wine takes a lot of effort, but the wine itself should be effortless.
Today we're on site at the world-famous Yarra Yering and we're talking to the winemaker and general manager, Sarah Crowe. I'm Jason.
And I'm Trent, and we're here on an unapologetically unprofessional, unfiltered wine journey. And we're saying here, Jace.
Our saying is drink more, try more, learn more. And don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for coming.
We had an opportunity to meet you probably a year ago at the Real Review event where Yarra Yering had won Winery of the Year, amongst other accolades. So it's great to reconnect and find out more about your story and Yarra Yering. We have a set of questions we're going to dive into, but as always, we're going to ask you some icebreaker questions. So I'll hand over to Trent with those.
Okay. First one is there a most memorable wine or the most memorable wine moment within your life?
Well, there's been a lot of memorable wines. And then I guess, how long can a moment be?
Yes.
Can it be really long?
It can be really long as well, yeah.
Can it be a week long?
It can be a week long.
Okay, cool. So I think really as a memorable moment, but also, I guess quite pivotal in my career, was being a Len Evans tutorial scholar, which is a week-long kind of wine school that happens in the Hunter Valley once a year, and there's 12 scholars each year, and I was one of those scholars back in 2010.
Yeah, and now you're part of the board as well, right? As also a mentor as well.
Yeah, board and member and tutor. So it's an ongoing now. I get to experience it once a year, which is pretty amazing, to be honest.
And is it great to see, like we were chatting with Liz Silkman as well. I remember when she was going through and said you had a good chat with her to kind of make sure she's right for it. Is it really fulfilling to kind of see as you kind of mentor these kind of great winemakers come through?
It is, and it's often there are people that you haven't met before as a tutor, and so that's even more exciting to meet some kind of new faces in the industry, because sometimes it's quite a small industry and you think you kind of know everybody, but it's really great when there's this like new talent that you haven't ever met before. So that's really cool. But just to then also, I guess, not only kind of see them perform throughout that week and grow in confidence as the week goes on, then to kind of invite them to wine shows, to be a judge, etc. It's really cool to see the progression.
Fantastic. What's the last bottle of wine that you had?
It's really boring. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. That will get me in trouble. It's, yesterday at lunch here, we often open something at lunchtime just to share with the team. And it's sometimes the wines that we don't like where we have the best conversations around them. But I guess there's lots of bottles of wine often that aren't necessarily drunk, but they're tasted. Anyway, the last glass was yesterday at lunchtime, and it was a Semillon from the Barossa.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
That's different, is it?
Well, it's not really. There's been Semillon grown there for a long time, and we have a sister winery there, and we often send each other boxes of wine just to kind of try each other's wines. And so it was a Kaesler wine that a box arrived last week, and I kind of opened it. It was a hot day. And I thought Semillon sounds about right. Yeah. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Next one, favourite grape variety?
That's actually pretty easy at Chardonnay. Yeah, hands down.
What made you love Chardonnay, though? Was it a certain point in time ago, this is it? Or is it more, it is the winemaker's grape variety as well? Or?
Yeah, it's a winemaker's grape variety for sure. It's also, I guess, the Australian Chardonnay has just grown in kind of quality and complexity. And it's, I suppose, a bit of a competition, not a competition, but, you kind of talk to your winemaking friends and, or how do you approach your Chardonnay? And then you really start to kind of delve into it, because you can, I don't want to say manipulate, but guide it into different styles of wine quite easily.
Lots of different expressions.
Yeah, lots of different expressions. And I think Chardonnay can be like amazing from so many places. So I always feel like there's another beautiful Chardonnay out there, and I'm always on the lookout for it.
Waiting to be discovered.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Next one. A person past or present they'd love to have a bottle of wine with, and what bottle of wine would that be?
So for a long time, I've thought it would be really, it'd be really good to sit down with Julia Gillard.
Yeah.
Or Prime Minister of Australia. Being a female in a male-dominated industry, politics, that would be kind of cool just to kind of throw some kind of stories back and forth and, well, how do you handle certain situations? But really, I think I would really love to have a meal with Jennifer Coolidge.
Yeah.
The American actress, most recently known for The White Lotus, because she's just so much fun.
Yeah.
And, if you're going to sit down and have share a bottle of wine with somebody, those kind of deep, meaningful conversations, perhaps with Julia Gillard, would be great, but maybe it'd detract from the wine. Whereas I think Jennifer Coolidge and I would have like a real blast, and we'd drink a bottle of Chardonnay pretty quickly.
There should be you, Jennifer, and Julie at the same table.
That would be great. I'm going to have two people. Yeah, I'm breaking all the rules today.
So you're the winemaker. What wine would you bring then?
It would definitely be Chardonnay, and it would potentially be a white Burgundy. Although I do love, I think Australian Chardonnay is pretty cool from lots of areas. So Margaret River, Adelaide Hills, Yarra Valley, Hunter even. So.
I'll leave it as the Yarra Yering Chardonnay then. That
there
bring.
We go. Of course, it's a Yarra Yering Chardonnay.
Next one, is there a unique food and wine pairing?
I don't know if unique is great when it comes to this. I think the classics are classic for a reason. So,
what is your classic? What is your go-to then?
Chardonnay and roast chook, but things like, and just on last Friday we had a bunch of locals here for breakfast on Good Friday, a tradition started by James Halliday that we've kind of carried on for the last few years here at Yarra Yering, and it's scrambled eggs and champagne. It's really good.
Really good scrambled eggs though.
Really good scrambled, lots of cream, lots of butter. Yeah. And then like the bread is actually like croissant.
Yeah.
So up in the butter up again.
Yeah. Do you also splash a bit of truffle oil on top as well?
Oh, I hate truffles.
Truffle?
Yeah, no, truffles, no truffles in my life.
Oh.
Yeah, they're so overpowering.
Yeah.
They would ruin the champagne.
Yeah.
And it kind of, that truffle flavour hangs on your palate, and I feel like it dulls your palate. So I am always no to truffle. Yeah.
I learned something new about Sarah Crowe today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, next one. Biggest lesson learned on your wine journey?
I think it's that you have to kind of go the extra mile. You have to, I guess, at times back yourself as well, but often the right thing is often the harder thing.
Yeah.
And if you want to change the world, it's not going to just come easily. Like, you have to actually do those things that take more time or take longer.
Change is hard, and sometimes it's not the easy decision, it's the hard decision you have to make.
Yeah. And, sometimes it's like, well, that's going to take an extra whatever day, month, or I don't have this, I'm going to have to source that if I want to do it. And it's like, normally it's the right choice. If you're thinking about it, you should probably do it. Maybe
we'll delve into some examples later, but that's the rapid fire questions.
That's the icebreakers. And so we do want to ask about you and your wine journey. And we've heard stories about the accidental winemaker, but there seems to be this connection to nature, and obviously wine coming from the grapes, the vineyards, the soils. That's all about nature. Where did that love for nature come from? Because you'd studied horticulture, you'd worked in garden centres that kind of led you to this path.
I don't know. I don't know if that's just something that kind of comes naturally, because even as a teenager, like, I would like to go out into the yard and garden and, either water it or pull some weeds or plant some plants and things. It was just something that happened. But now I think about it, probably it came from my grandfather. who had a fairly large vegetable garden in his backyard. And I would always be out with him, helping, pick the beans or whatever it was that he was growing at the time. Like I used to follow my grandfather around a lot. So I was always in the shed with him. He used to build stuff, like he built his house kind of thing. So I was always hanging out in the shed with my grandfather.
You lived with your grandfather?
No, I didn't. But I would often, I don't remember this myself, but I would apparently like pack my suitcase and my teddy bear and just walk out of my bedroom and tell my parents that they had to take me to my grandparents' place. Yeah. And it might have been because they had more cartoons, they had more TV channels. So they had better cartoons on a Saturday morning. But I was always hanging around my grandfather and helping him, in the shed and in the veggie garden. So and I do love mowing the lawn as well, and he was very proud of his lawn, and when he couldn't mow his lawn anymore, I'd go there and mow it for him, but he'd sit on the wall and tell me when to turn around and that I'd missed a blade. So, probably my grandfather, actually.
I was curious if it was a family connection, and okay, that does show the linkage. And then, you've had your time in Hunter, Brokenwood, Bimbadgen. Something that we'd found out is the time you were spending in Beechworth, looking after Brokenwood's vineyards there, and we had the opportunity to visit Beechworth probably in around Christmas time. Yeah. Oh, what did you learn from your experience there while in Beechworth?
Oh, I'm actually going there this weekend as well, because that vineyard is turning 25. Yeah, so they're having a big little, I don't know how big it is, like a celebration lunch. And so I've been invited back for lunch over the weekend. So that'll be cool. I think it was because we were making the wine down in King Valley and there was no phone reception down there. So when I first went there, I would fax back the analysis to PJ, Charteris, who was a winemaker at Brokenwood at the time, and then he would either send a fax back, like this is how long ago this was, he'd either send a fax back with what he wanted me to do, or he'd call the office and they'd have to come and find me in the winery. But also at the same time, he was looking after all of the other regions they were making fruit from. So I think spending that time there made me actually start to think about, because sometimes I'm like, he hasn't got back to me, and I would have to start making some calls myself. And I think it was that opportunity where just through circumstance that I had to actually think about things and then make some calls and then go and act on them. So it was probably my first opportunity at actually having a bit of a crack where I couldn't stuff it up too much.
Yeah, so the ability to take accountability, make your own decisions actually came from failures in technology. Yeah. That's surprising.
We do have to explain what faxes are later on as well to the younger audience. But it does also connect back to what you said before about your lesson learned as well. You were kind of put in a position where you had to make some decisions. Like the easy decision would be wait for PJ to get to you and then do whatever he kind of gives you direction on. But then you kind of took it upon yourself to say, I need to do something.
Yeah, we need to, it's time. Yeah. We're going to put this wine to ferment now. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. Yeah, has to happen, should have happened. Yeah. I better just make a call.
You mentioned just then around you're going back to Brokenwood for 25 years, and it does feel like there's that kind of camaraderie that kind of comes from Hunter to here and within the wine industry that you mentioned as well. So it feels like through your journey, the wine industry has given you a lot, but also I've seen now through, especially around recent times, you've given a lot back to the wine industry. Why is that important to you?
Well, I don't know if that's just an inherent feeling that you have, or some people have, where they want to be of service. So maybe partly that, but also I think for me it's people kind of, I guess, took a chance on me, and I might have worked hard to say, well, she's worth keeping around, but people did really from time to time take a bit of a chance on me, and I feel like maybe it's my duty in a way to be that kind of person to other people in the industry.
I was with your time in Beechworth, I was half expecting you to say you grew a greater appreciation for Chardonnay, but maybe that wasn't the case. Is that true?
We were making a lot of Chardonnay there as well. Yeah, I think when I was there, it was kind of, Chardonnay and Pinot, I guess, in a way. And at the time, I probably thought more about the Pinot because with the Chardonnay, we were just pressing it, dejuicing it and trucking it back to the Hunter Valley, whereas the Pinot, I was fermenting it in small fermenters, a little bit bigger than what we have here at Yarra Yering now, but they were still small fermenters. And we modified, we didn't really modify them, but we used their picking bins for small fermenters instead of just having one big fermenter of all of this Pinot. So starting to pull apart the different clones of Pinot and using different techniques on them that's where I kind of started doing that.
Yeah.
And then, so after I started looking after Beechworth, that's when I did 2 vintages, not really back to back, but went to Oregon 3 years in a row, for instance. And it was kind of Pinot that the Pinot bug is what I caught.
Yeah. I
think while I was there. Whereas before I was very in love with Shiraz and I still went to the Rhone Valley and did a vintage in the Rhone Valley as well. But, the Hunter Valley, it was all about the Semillon and Shiraz, and then Chardonnay was a distant third in my experience there anyway.
Yeah. And we're hoping it's not too distant because we've got the Chardonnay here. It's the 2023 vintage from Yarra Yering.
So tell us about the 2023 Chardonnay. What should we expect on this? How does this kind of talk to the land as well?
Yeah, 23 was quite a cool season, a more difficult season for the later varieties, like the Shiraz and Cabernets, but really being a cooler season, kind of ideal for the Burgundy varieties. The Chardonnay and the Pinot from 23 are really lovely. Still quite youthful and fresh and mineral, I guess. We're a warmer site within a cool region here, so I like to have my cake and eat it too. I like to sit on the fence where we've got just that little bit more fruit weight, but also keep a line of acidity and freshness in the Chardonnay. So, I want it to kind of still look like Chardonnay, but have that real energy and drive, and also be a good cellaring proposition for people.
So you mentioned before, like Broken Wood, but you also did time with Badgin as well, and Oregon and Rhone. So accumulation of these different experiences that you bring to Yarra Yering. What is the kind of Sarah Crowe style? What is the stamp that you're trying to apply? And does that kind of show up in this type of Chardonnay as well?
I think it does. I think to be super respectful to the land and the vineyard, we need to not suffocate it by being too prominent as a winemaker. So I do feel like my impression on these wines is actually to really try and be in the shadows and not. So when you're looking at the wines, you don't really see the hand of winemaking. And I think with this Chardonnay in particular, it's about 25 to 30% new oak, but I don't think, in fact, I think it's 25. I don't think you don't feel the oak, or it doesn't smell like oak. It smells like fruit. And on the palate, there's this very background oak tannin and structure to the wine, but you finish with this wonderful acidity and fresh fruit flavour, not oak flavour. So it is a fairly good example, I think, of what we'll see through the reds as well.
Yeah.
I guess I think you want to see the detail in these wines. The winemaking can't be too heavy and sit on top of them.
I feel that, I know, some Chardonnays were going too lean. This one's actually got texture in it.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is also, some people go, I want texture through my wines. Is that something you're going to bring into the Chardonnay as well?
Yeah, I think with the Chardonnay, there's texture but freshness at the same time. And it is easy to, there was a trend for them to be a little bit too lean. And I think, everybody always talks about the pendulum swinging too far. They were too big and now they're too lean. And hopefully as a country, we're settling in this beautiful sweet spot. And I think if there's a there's you're looking at a greener Chardonnay, it's maybe either a vintage now, impact more than a style that people are looking for. I think everybody kind of knew we went a little bit too far.
Yeah.
I think the balance of oak and fruit is really clear. The fruit still shines through with this wine, but I also love the palate on the texture. That kind of weight to it is perfectly balanced.
No, I love the texture of it. Like, I was expecting it to be a lot leaner.
Because it's pretty clear in the glass as well. Like, there's not a lot of colour to it. Colour, you can tell a lot about wine from colour before you even taste it. You can tell a lot about wine.
Because I know before other podcasts saying, oh no, I was stopping it, not go through Malo, so I expected it to be a lot more sharper.
Yep.
But this one, again, a lot more texture, which surprised me.
Yeah. I think it's partly being that little bit warmer side.
Yeah.
And then in some years, like, Malo's a season by season proposition.
Yeah.
It's like if it's very cool and lean, then we might need to make a more balanced wine. Whereas a lot of winemakers think Malo's a dirty word. I think it's just a tool that we have.
Yeah.
When it needs it, I will use it.
Yeah. So you said before where, you try and be more in the background rather than the foreground, but there's still those key decisions that you need to make around when to pick, whether to go through Malo, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Yes, I think making great wine takes a lot of effort, but the wine itself should be effortless.
Yeah. Great way. I had to pause and think about that, but it's a great way to put it. It should be seamless as you're tasting it. Yeah. Completely agree.
It's, the like a duck gliding across the pond, but underneath, like, the little feet are going.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is what we're doing as winemakers. We're those little feet, but actually what you want is this beautiful seamless wine at the end of it. But it doesn't mean doing nothing. Letting the vineyard shine and be the highlight absolutely does not mean doing nothing.
The decision not to do anything about it is also equally hard as well.
Yes.
You've talked about making sure that the vineyard is what shines through, and you don't want to highlight the winemaker's effort behind it. It's probably my second time to Yarra Valley. Are you able to describe, probably at a macro level, what's unique about Yarra Valley, and then what's unique about this site specifically?
Well, the Yarra Valley is very diverse, which is a hard marketing message to tell people, because we have, lots of, you can see the foothills across the valley from us here. You can see all the different aspects where it is possible to plant a vineyard. So it's super diverse, and all those little microclimates are really quite different. We're most well known as a region for Chardonnay and Pinot. That is mostly because Domaine Chandon came here in the 80s and set up and got all these people to plant sparkling varieties.
Yeah.
The fact that most of those are now made into table wine is also part of the Yarra Valley story. So globally, people think of Yarra Valley and they think of Chardonnay and Pinot. If we look at kind of the pioneering wineries like Yarra Yering, Yeringberg, Mount Mary, Seville Estate, there's a lot of Bordeaux influence there, and most of us Shiraz as well, except for Mount Mary. No Shiraz at Mount Mary. But really the reputation of the Yarra Valley was built on the back of these Bordeaux-inspired blends. And I also think that the blend is a key there as well, because that way, like making a straight Cabernet is like that's pretty difficult to do well, whereas when you've got 4 or 5 varieties and you're blending, you can kind of mitigate the seasons to make a beautiful wine most years. And the percentages, even though with our Bordeaux blend, our Dry Red Wine No.1, it's always Cabernet dominant, but that can change from, say, 55% to 85%, depending on the
swing.
It is a big
Wow.
swing, yeah. And that'll depend on the season and how we can put the best wine together. But also at the same time, I want there to be a common thread. So it is interesting that it can swing so much. So what's unique about this place? Well, Dr Carrodus, our founder, was very focused on just this slope across in the foothills where we are here. He wanted to be dry grown from the get-go. And like the soil where our vines are growing is the decomposed rock from the Warramate Hills that sit behind us. So our soil profile is actually, we're in the foothills, so we actually have quite a deep soil profile, but it can be rocky in parts as well. It is a small continuous vineyard that has a lot of different varieties, and we can make anything. We make some years from a sparkling base all the way through table wines to a fortified wine as well. It's a pretty unique site in that way that we can do those styles and all those varieties, Chardonnay, Pinot, Shiraz, Cabernet, Portuguese varieties. We can do them really well. We have a map up there that shows the different kind of where the blends come from across the vineyard. But I think it's this beautiful balance, where we're part of the lower Yarra, but we're in these kind of foothills. And so it's this lovely balance of climate where we can do all of those varieties and styles well. We can be dry grown, and on a warm, dry year like this, when we finish picking and we've still got this amazing canopy because our roots are down deep.
Yeah.
And in tough seasons like this, our vineyard is way more resilient than perhaps some of the neighbouring vineyards that are relying on irrigation. So it's this ancient, grey silty loam soil, dry grown, this lovely kind of balance of climates where we can ripen more tannic varieties like Cabernet and Portuguese, as well, make a sparkling at the same time. So it's this lovely sweet spot within the valley. It's pretty
unique.
I guess it's kind of unique. And when I think about sparkling base is one thing, and maybe like your clones can help you make a sparkling base on a warmer site like this. If I think about all the varieties, I think the one that is probably the trickiest, because Chardonnay is very robust and resilient, and you can make loads of different styles, as is Shiraz. Cabernet, you definitely want bright tannins, so we want to be that little bit warmer. Probably the trickiest variety that we have on this site would be Pinot.
When you first came to Yarra Yering, did you know about all these soils, or is this something that you just kind of evolved, learned? Did you know about how unique this place was?
Not really. No. I think when I came here for the interview, and they were like, "Oh, and what's your favorite variety?" And I was like most people, going, "Oh, well, I know of the number 1 and the number 2, Shiraz and Cabernet, but it's also the Yarra Valley, and there's Chardonnay and Pinot." So I was like, well, and I love living in the Hunter, and like it's like my family up there. So I wasn't really itching to get out of town kind of thing. So I just thought I'd just be really honest. And at the time, it was like Shiraz was my favourite variety, but I actually said, this won't help. It's Shiraz. And I didn't realise that we had more Shiraz planted here than anything else. So like that was a lucky win.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, great.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really familiar with the whole suite of wines, or the way it was kind of cut up across the vineyard. No.
Yeah.
That's had to kind of learn that on the job, which is fun.
Well, you got Shiraz as part of the blend that we're going to have here.
Yeah.
So the next one that we're going to try is the 2024 light dry red Pinot Shiraz from Yarra Yering.
What's the story behind this one, Sarah?
All right. So this one's quite special, I guess, in my story here at Yarra Yering, because this was the first new blend that I introduced into the portfolio of wines, and that happened from the 2015 vintage was the first time I made this. And the idea for it came from my time spent in the Hunter Valley, where historically, and even at the time it wasn't that common, but my friend Liz Silkman was making one, and I had her, I forget what vintage it was. Must have been 13 or 14 vintage. And then I went to a tasting and had this old McWilliams Mount Pleasant, 1952, which obviously was Shiraz with some Pinot in it. It was very obvious to me. It was just had that beautiful Pinot silkiness to it. So I came back in and I started blending just to see
have fun
how it would look. And yeah, so it was the first wine that I introduced. I didn't want it to look like a Hunter wine. I wasn't trying to, the inspiration came from there. It's usually been 50-50. This is the 24 is the first vintage where it's actually 60% Pinot, 40% Shiraz. So I wanted it to have the feel of the Yarra Valley in the aroma, the juiciness. We use a lot of whole bunch fermentation in this, and it was a wine that I released because for so long people have been told that when they bought their Yarra Yering wine that this one had to sell for at least 5 years and this one at least 10, and you can't touch this for 20 years. So I wanted to also make a wine where I was giving people permission to buy it, open it, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like just drink it.
Were you nervous then when you kind of create this blend and release it to market?
Yes. I really was. And at the time, these Pinot Shiraz blends, which there's a lot of them around now, but 10 years ago there wasn't. And for instance, some other winemaker friends would pop in here and be looking at the wines on pour in the cellar door, and I'd say, oh, the Pinot Shiraz, and they go, oh, no, I'm right. Like they wouldn't want to try it. Yeah. Some of those same people now make one. So, yeah, it was really I was very nervous about it, and I actually blended it before I had the blessing of the owner as well, because I just knew for us as a brand we needed to be introducing ourselves to a younger consumer, and I could see a path to that through this style of wine, this trend to drink more fragrant, lighter bodied, fresher reds. So I knew it was the right thing to do. So it was the, ask for forgiveness instead of begging for permission.
It's like creating your own Grange story, Sarah.
It is really.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I actually took it up to James Halliday and very nervously left it with him one Good Friday. It's like I've made this new wine, and I think James actually had a couple of glasses of it, which he didn't. He was very. He has these rules around how much wine he has with dinner and things. So because it's a very slippery slope in our industry. So, and I think he actually had a second glass of that wine, and really rewarded it really well, and wrote it up, and so I was always forgived.
That's a compliment without words, right?
Yeah.
Just that action. That's great. But what you're saying reminds us of the story that your friend Liz Silkman shared with us about you challenging her. I think it was about doing carbonic maceration, and you said she didn't have the balls to do it effectively, right?
I don't remember this conversation. I think she's lying.
But I really get that sense of confidence from you, and willing to challenge the norms and have the guts to do so. Where does that come from?
Oh, no idea. I guess deep down I am a little bit ambitious, and I want to do well, and I personally my own career I want to do well, but I want Yarra Yering, this beautiful historic brand, to do well. And if you're not trying new things or challenging yourself, then you're very easily forgotten.
So it wasn't a specific person. It wasn't your time in Hunter. It wasn't that. There was just something inside where you want to rise and challenge things.
Well, maybe it has something to do with coming from a different background and not from a wine family, and perhaps not studying wine science because I studied viticulture. So, maybe it's for a while when I was working in the cellar, also being female with a majority men, but not all blokes, really kind of wanting to prove that I'm allowed to be here.
Yeah.
And I guess by not kind of challenging yourself or doing a good job of it, you're perhaps opening yourself up for people to say, oh, yeah, didn't think she was up to it or whatever. So, yeah, it's probably a little bit of coming from a different industry, studying differently and coming to it as a second career perhaps as well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Does competition play an aspect in it? Like I think about competitive sports, say, but what drives someone to reach their limits is seeing others and what they achieve. And if I was to soften the word competition, inspiration. Is inspiration a key thing for where you want to go?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's in the wine industry. So when you're surrounded by people who are just really inspiring and full of enthusiasm, and then I think it's, you either get on board or you get left behind. I don't know.
Yeah. Who's inspiring you right now?
It's like over the years, like a lot of people. But I think because you might think of Yarra Yering as being quite conservative as well. So, well, I guess that will come the next wine after this. The next wine we have might be a good kind of story about that. I think also often like younger people who are starting their own brands who really kind of go out on a limb, and like that is really inspiring. I've not had the guts to do it myself, like, so I have always had a bit of a safety net around me in the industry. And I think that's like extremely ballsy.
You say you
to start your own brand.
Yeah, you say you don't have the guts, but I think you also surprise yourself all the time as well.
Yeah, maybe.
Like from your time in, from doing your nursery to going into Broken Wood, from getting out of Hunter to getting to Yarra Yering, from the Pinot Shiraz as well. I think there's all these different moments in your life where, I'm going to try this, and you kind of take it by the horns and you kind of go for it.
Yeah. I mean, moving from the Hunter to the Yarra was easy to say yes to the job. It was hard to leave the region, but I still talk to those guys, so it's fine.
Yeah. Taking on winemaker role, taking on a general manager role. Not everyone wants to do that. There's a lot of confidence and braveness to do so. So that's fantastic. Well, but if we're talking about something that's iconic with Yarra Yering and awarded Red Wine of the Year from Halliday for 2025, we've got that in front of us. It's the 2022 Red Wine No.2, Dry Red Wine No.2 from Yarra Yering. And how was that accolade received? Because you've achieved so many. Is it a reassurance you're on the right track? Is it doesn't matter anymore?
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting one because I think when a lot of people look at my time here at Yarra Yering, they think I kind of came in and threw the baby out with the bathwater immediately and started mixing things up, which I don't believe is true. I think there's been a lovely slow evolution and understanding of what, why, how, what we can achieve. And so I talked about how Shiraz was really a key varietal focus of mine before coming here. And then, even the Underhill Shiraz is probably the style there has changed the most. But the two flagship wines, being the Dry Red Wine No.1 and No.2, and this is the No.2, were really, their tweaks were very, very small. And they're the hardest ones to tweak at the same time because of that loyalty of customers and wanting them to. I still, even with those tweaks, I still want them for those wines to feel like Yarra Yering.
Yeah.
And as well, have that wonderful ability to cellar and mature and be special occasion wines. The No.2, and I think because I did the Underhill Shiraz style evolved a lot more, I was still very nervous about doing too much too differently with this wine. And then it was really with the 2022 vintage after the 21, and such a beautiful vintage, but when we blend them, and I'm saying to Ben, my assistant, it's like, I mean, it's still a bit oaky. I can see the oak. It's nice oak, but and he said, and he's like, you say this every year with this wine. Like every year you say you're going to change it. And so I actually really did focus on that with the 22 vintage. And I thought, instead of just like, I'm pointing this out to myself, and with time, you know, it fades into the background. It's fine. But as a young wine as well, it's like, you know, am I still doing this to myself?
Yeah.
Like 10 vintages later.
Yeah.
So I did make a real conscious effort with this wine, and I thought I'm not going to have a too heavy hand with the oak on this wine. And then just amazingly, the Halliday team saw that and appreciated it. And I think what it meant is that, you know, they could actually see the quality and the power of the fruit, which sometimes was a little bit muffled by the oak.
So the recognition is important, right? I'm assuming as a winemaker, you do want to get these acknowledgements from someone outside of the organization.
Absolutely.
It's got to be key. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And particularly when you step into a historic brand as well, like there's a lot of focus on you and what you're doing. And even before the wine, I started making the wines at the new release, some of the old customers would be tasting them and look at me going, it's different, isn't it? And I'm like, I didn't even make that wine. So that was just something that I had to get used to straight away, because people were just perceiving a difference.
Yeah.
Even when it wasn't even actually there. So I thought, oh well, they're going to be looking for it. We may as well kind of have a little evolution here.
Yeah, I think with dry red wine, they go, oh, yeah, that's the Bordeaux blend style. With this one, it's like the Northern Rhone style. You had time in Northern Rhone. Yeah. Like, how does Northern Rhone style compare to this style?
Well, they're way more rustic. Let me just say that from the Rhone. There can be some beautiful wines, but they can often be a little bit kind of rustic and more kind of tannic and dry, whereas, you know, we've still got this beautiful Australian fruit character, even though we're a cool climate. You know, it's fruit first with our wines, even from here. You know, it's the core of the wines.
I definitely get that. I still get those elements around Northern Rhone, but definitely that kind of fruit-driven type of wines, and that kind of comes through with the Pinot Shiraz onto this one as well, where you don't feel that oak come through, and it's more kind of drink now rather than cellar for 10 years.
Yeah, that was still cellar, and this is, you know, like, people can be a bit nervous about it. It just doesn't take as long for you to start to enjoy it, you know, because it's the same fruit. The core of the wine is the same. Yeah. It just hasn't been a little bit kind of muffled by oak barrels. So there's no concern about the wine not cellaring. It's just that you don't actually have to wait to enjoy it.
I said before, you can buy a case, you can drink one now.
Yeah. I'll fix you up on the way out.
I have to admit, we had an episode discussion recently about what's the most reliable red that you could get within Australia.
Yeah.
And this is one of my most reliable reds. I know if I get this, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Every vintage, it's good. Everyone's going to enjoy it. That's the way I see this.
You spoke about blends. Sometimes you say you can mask things, but I also think it's a bit like an alchemist as well sometimes, when you might have multiple ferments to kind of make a style. Like, what goes through your mind each year for blend number 1, 2, and 3 to make sure, you know, you still uphold traditions of Yarra Yering, but also apply kind of a new reinvention to keep up to date.
Yeah. I mean, the foundation for those wines has been around for 50 years. So there's a basic idea of what these wines are going to be. So that kind of helps.
Yeah.
It's then what we do is we're actually trying to grow the different blocks to go into the different wines. And so our vineyard manager, Andrew George, he knows what he's doing in the paddock, and he knows hopefully where that wine, you know, is the destination of that block of fruit is this wine, and he knows. And sometimes, you know, I talk to him, you know, while we're picking or in the lead up to picking, and I'll be like, all right, do you think am I still right? I was thinking I'd use that block for some bunch work. And he might say, oh, I actually think this block is going to be a bit better suited. You know, they're bigger bunches, whatever. So we still have that kind of conversation, but we're really trying to grow the blocks to fit into a wine. So it's a vineyard derived blend, hopefully. And then if something doesn't quite make the grade, then we can leave it out. But the idea behind them is that they're vineyard derived blends.
Yeah. While also showing the seasonal variation as well.
Yeah. And that's the fun. I mean, you don't want every year to taste identical. You know, that's one of the most unique, beautiful things I think about wine is that you can smell them and taste them, and sometimes, not always, like guess their vintage because you know about the seasons. You know, this looks like a warmer, dry season and it only looks this old. It's potentially a 2019, you know. So we have these kind of markers through the fruit profile that we can kind of go back and pinpoint, you know, when wine was made, like from what vintage it's from. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. You don't do that with, I don't know, tomato sauce, do you?
Is it hard to find that balance though between, you know, maintaining consistency while doing your own thing as well? It feels that it's tough. It's tough because you are trying to do system innovation. You are trying to innovate. You are trying to provide consistency to it as well. Like, is it tough or is it getting easy now after, 12 years, 10th vintage?
It's much easier now than it was for the first couple of vintages. Yeah. I guess you kind of, there's that familiarity with the different blocks and what we've tried that's worked and what hasn't. I do tend to have a bit of a idea of how I'm going to handle each of the blocks now. I've kind of worked through that, and it's a little bit more fine tuning that might happen, or whether or not it's the season to do that. Is it the right season? And then I think it's often, I know just at picking, just based on what the season's been, how the fruit looks, how it tastes at picking.
Yeah.
Pretty much know if it's going to make the blend.
Just to build on that, does Carrodus come from the same blocks as like where Dry Red No.1 comes from as well, or is it different?
Carrodus Cabernet comes from part of the No.1 block. Yeah.
Is it hard to make that call then on this goes into Carrodus and this goes into one?
Well, there's like a change in the soil from where that Carrodus comes from. So the Carrodus Cabernet doesn't change. Yeah, the Chardonnay has changed each year. The Viognier doesn't change because that's all we make.
Yes.
And the Shiraz doesn't change, and the Pinot always comes off the 69 planting. So they largely don't change. And if those little sections aren't unique and good enough, then we just don't make a Carrodus wine. And usually that'll be a seasonal decision, and it's often based around whether or not I need those parcels of fruit to bring the quality of this white label up, because this is what we're here to do. If I can make a Carrodus wine as well, that's great.
Yeah.
But that's not the focus. These white label wines that people know, that's our focus. So if they are as good as they can be and we can make the Carrodus, great.
Yeah.
But otherwise, basically those parcels go into these white label wines to make them.
Putting your general manager hat on, this is your core business.
Yes, totally. It's the bread and butter.
Got it.
Yeah.
And we also we touched on progression, innovation, and maybe that's where this wine comes in. So we've got the 2023 Amphora from Yarra Yering. And so if you want to share a story about the Amphora, that would be great.
Well, like they've become very popular, and some, wineries, they're just 100% Amphora made wines. And I thought, I don't know what an Amphora brings to a wine.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's good. I wonder if we should have some.
Yeah.
Is this the next kind of evolution in Yarra Yering? So I bought 2 500-litre Amphoras. 2023 was the first vintage. And it was really just about winemaking experimentation and learning. And we had Shiraz in one and Cabernet in the other because I don't know, like it's just like, well, let's try these two varieties. And I thought it looked really good. And so we actually bottled it.
It just says Amphora on it, but is this Shiraz or is it Cabernet? Is it both?
It's Shiraz Cabernet blend at 60-40.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a bit of a, Aussie classic, Shiraz Cabernet, which we don't do.
Yeah.
And to educate us, what is the impact of the Amphora that you found?
I find it's, the Amphora that I bought are from Spain. So I think I can't speak to all Amphoras because they have different amounts of porosity and they're made from different material and clay. So these ones are quite porous. And actually my original plan was to put some Touriga in it, and which is why I went for the Spanish one because it's kind of close. It wasn't the right season to do it, which is how this wine ended up. Is that making that call? It's like, you know what? It's a tough season for this Touriga. I'm going to play a real straight bat with the Touriga this year, but we can muck around with some Shiraz and Cabernet instead. So I was going to do Shiraz and Touriga because we make a blend of those varieties. But instead of using the Touriga, I use Cabernet.
Yeah.
So I think you get quite an oxygen exchange. And in particular, on a cooler, more leafier year, it really that micro-oxygenation helped to get rid of some of the more leafier, greener characteristics in the wine. So we got this very primary fruit profile. It's the palate that I think is the most interesting. And I'm still learning about this, but it has this very earthen dryness to it. Like it smells so kind of floral and fruity, but then the palate is really quite. The texture is, but the texture that it finishes dry, soft and dry because of that micro-oxygenation. The fruity soft, but then there's this lovely kind of dry earthenness to the wine that it finishes quite dry.
Because without tasting, I think Shiraz biggish, Cabernet biggish, tannins are going to be quite biggish, but then it's not that.
No, and it's more a dry texture than tannin.
Yeah,
and I think that's the vessel.
Yeah. I actually thought that with kind of new things, your push was around white wines because in other podcasts, they go take Grenache Blanc.
Yeah.
Is that the thing? But this is Amphora, a different style, but red wine still.
Yeah, I think Amphora is a better vessel for red wine, personally. Not that I've actually tried making any, just from the wines that I've tasted. Yeah. And I think that's just my palate. I tend to like a more classic palate profile on the whites. And I think whites are a little bit more susceptible to kind of oxidation and don't really handle it as easily. So I like to try new things, but I also like to be pretty safe around it as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. For me, I'm thinking about other vessels as well. I mean, I had some clay eggs for Chardonnay or ceramic eggs for Chardonnay.
We've seen wine globes as well. Have you seen them?
I've seen them. Yeah, they're really expensive for a very small volume.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they, just from talking to people, and you can do lots of things with them, but for me, they would be, this is how they were using them. I visited Cheval Blanc, which was a real highlight of last year for me. And I sound like a real winemaker, don't I? And talking to the winemaker there because he had some. And I said, oh, what do you think? And what do they bring? And he said, well, I actually think they're more like a time capsule. So they're this great reference point for him when he's tasting through the barrels and looking at the evolution of the wine in cask. He has this almost like a very pure, unadulterated reference. So he can see the evolution of the wine from when it went to barrel to now, because he almost has this control out of the wine globe. Yeah. And I think, I get that. So
fantastic. So you're kind of making that balance between the traditions of what Dr. Bailey Carrodus kind of established, and now I see you kind of putting your own fingerprint style, but still kind of in the background as well. What would Dr Bailey Carrodus kind of say now, looking at Yarra Yering and where it's currently placed?
Yeah, I have been told that he would be super proud, which is really, really lovely to hear. Also, like a lot of people, when we started bottling under screw cap, they were like, oh, lightning's going to come out down from the sky. But somebody very close to him said to me he would be fine with it. He wasn't too proud, and that old friend was our biggest customer as well. So I think he would be proud. I think Yarra Yering, before I got here and under Bailey Carrodus, had an evolution from 1969 to 2008 when he passed away, and we see that in the different plantings and the different wines that have been made over the years. Varieties have come and gone: Semillon, Sauvignon Blanc, Barolo, not Barolo, Barbaresco, Nebbiolo. Yeah. I get my tongue twist comes from, there was a wine called Barbiolo here, which was a blend of Nebbiolo and Barbera. Yep. So
that was a Yarra Yering?
It was a Yarra Yering wine, from 2010. So there has always been an evolution of, and in particular the vineyard and the vineyard plantings, and the way the wines were made over the years as well. So, when I got here in the end of 2013, or how those wines had been made, that's not exactly the same as how they were made in 1973 in his first vintage. So, understanding, I think, that there has always been an evolution of the brand helps us to think, or to know that it's okay for us to continue that evolution, and it's okay for us to, look to the future and want to make better wines than have ever been made before, and that's with the utmost respect to Dr Carrodus and what he planted and grew. Is we will continue your legacy, and it's not arrogant to want to do better. That's just evolution. So I think he'd be okay.
Yeah,
you might have
extremely proud.
Yeah, absolutely. You might have answered this through that. My last question is, what's your proudest moment, having gone through this experience, received these accolades? What do you look back on and go, gosh, I'm so proud of that?
I think it's the being named like Winery of the Year, because that's not just focusing on one nice wine from a season. That's about consistency across all of the wines, and that's not something I can achieve as an individual. I need the team for us. That's not an award for me. That's an award for the team and everyone involved, because one person doesn't make that happen. And to receive that accolade a couple of times is really just, it's pretty amazing. But it's a reflection on the site as well. It's a reflection, I think, on the site and the team.
Yeah. Well, they say success is built on the shoulders of giants, right?
Absolutely.
And one of the giants also is Andrew George as well, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's absolutely it's a team effort to make the wines and respect the vineyard and the history. Yeah, for sure.
Well, probably at the tail end of the interview. Did you have any last questions?
No last questions.
And Sarah, for our listeners out there, did you have any last messages that you wanted to share about Yarra Yering, Yarra Valley, anything?
Oh, I would just like to invite them all to come to Yarra Yering and experience a tasting of these wines. And because we've talked about and we've tasted the Amphora wine and the light dry red, a lot of people who don't actually come to our tasting room don't know the range of wines that we make, because a lot of them, they're only available through the tasting room. Yeah. But every month the tasting lineup changes and there's 8 wines. So yeah, it's an invitation to everyone to come and visit us and taste how expansive this small continuous vineyard is when it comes to wine style and different blends.
Yeah, there's a lot of fantastic experimentation, which is helping push the boundaries, which is great. Trent, did you have any last reflections?
I think the last reflection is I've been surprised with all the accolades. You have the humility and also the ability to still feel so motivated to innovate and find those 1%ers in terms of experimentation with the Pinot Shiraz, with the Amphoras and with everything else that's going on. It's been an absolute pleasure, I guess, going through this plant and having this chat with you.
Thank you for coming.
No, thanks for having us. You mentioned Jennifer Coolidge at the start.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she's not cool. You're cool. When you're talking, everything's so calm and collected. But you're GM, you're managing this whole business. But there's this underlying confidence and calmness about you, which is it's really inspiring. Not trying to suck up or anything, but it's inspiring because it's hard. It's hard to have the weight of a brand like this on your shoulders and still go, I'm going to respect it and I'm going to carve the future for it. And that's really inspiring. So really appreciate your time and thank you for sharing the wines here. Absolutely. For our viewers and listeners out there, visit this site, Yarra Yering, taste the wines. It's not only beautiful, but obviously the wines are great. Sarah, thank you once again for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
As we like to say here, drink more, try more, learn more. Thanks all.